We apologize. Our software is still buggy. That's right. Anybody who's thinking about doing a YouTube channel and or podcasts, avoid Restream if you can. If you can afford better, do better, because this fucking thing becomes more of a joke each and every time that we're on here. Ryan, I know you weren't with us last night on our other project, House of the Empire, but when I say it was technical difficulties galore, that is a understatement. We got a whole heck of a lot to talk about in a very short amount of time to talk about, and I'm sure the algorithm gods are not going to be on our side given how absent we've been. Um, but kind of like what the banner below says, colleague channel talk. Tony Stewarts. I feel like we heard about that one a while ago. SVG and Trackhouse news and the chase. Dude, how you been? How was your holiday? Hopefully everybody's holiday that was good that listens to us. And mine was shit. I was sick the entire time. I think we ate Christmas dinner on I don't even only part of it on January 2nd or 3rd, whenever we finally got around to cooking it. It was that rough and that bad.
Yeah, well, welcome to, I know it's been a little bit since we've been on, but that's kind of the nature of the off season, right? I know it's hard to get everybody together to do these shows when you got friends and family and obligations and all that. But it's been quite the exciting off season across the board, whether it was the lawsuit coming to conclusion or everything that's kind of happened with the new reveal of the playoffs and all that. So NASCAR business has definitely kept up, which gives us a lot to talk about. But yeah, my holidays are all right. We just had our second Christmas last weekend, getting that out of the way on the 10th of January. So two family gatherings out and in the books. Happy to have been able to spend time with everyone, and it's been good. But I'm also happy to kind of get past the holidays and get back into a what I would say regular routine looks like and talk some racing because there's certainly a lot to dive into tonight. And as the season gets going here in about a month, I think we will definitely be busy. So I'm super excited about that.
So I've had to address similar issues to what we're about to discuss on the other YouTube channel we have. Sorry. Don't smoke weed before doing a show, people. Bad idea. Um, um, I perfectly legal where I am, by the way. So let's just come out with it. Let's start with this, and maybe we don't say it enough. And maybe had we said it more, perhaps it might have been handled slightly different. So let's just get this out of the way now. Yes, our channel name is currently Kaulig Nation, as is our X account, as is multiple Facebook groups. We are, in fact, Kaulig Racing fans who have gone on an endeavor of creating NASCAR content and media. Um, However, we have no official affiliation with Kaulig Racing as a team. Um, and I think sometimes, at least a couple of times in the past, that hasn't been misconstrued by us, but misunderstood by some of the people that either follow us or view us or listen to us or watch us. Um, so let me reiterate that 6 minutes into season 2, episode 1 of Rammin is Racing, we are not officially affiliated with Kaulig Racing. Um, Not for the lack of effort either, but um, Ryan, it's kind of unfair of me to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you this just so I get an idea where you would like to go with it. There's a reason we're saying this, obviously. Is there anything that you want to say off the top, or would you rather I just say it, then you piggyback onto it? I know the audience is probably sitting here going, "What the hell are these two talking about?" And it's a little bit of a sensitive situation. um, but also something that I feel like needs some airing. And as you said earlier when we were off air, I think they really only care about what we're doing on one platform and not the other two.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Listen, we've been doing this season 4, right? We're starting coming into our 4th season, maybe 5th. I've actually lost track of time on how long we've been doing this on and off. And we have done this as fans, which have grown into, I would say, a legitimate following from a driver to a team, and that has kind of grown our platform because of that. But we love racing. We talk about racing. We dig into everything out Kaulig, obviously, but also across the spectrum. And sometimes I think, we've tried to build relationships, right, inside various means, whether that's through the Kaulig organization or outside or through different sources. But we are our own independent platform, and I think in recent months, as our following has grown, the visibility of our account has grown as well, and I think that's been a very good thing across the board. But that does also potentially lead to a handful of unfortunate. I don't even want to call it unfortunate. I just think that's part of the business we're in, of being social media, that we can ruffle feathers, and but that's kind of what we're here to do. We're here to give our opinions on things, and when we hear stuff, we're going to share it with you, and that doesn't always come across in ways that are appreciated. And I do think that's something that's definitely come across our board here as we get into a new season, and as we want to start off, with this season, with a fresh slate across the board. I think it's very important to share this with ourselves and with you guys, the listeners, and anybody that cares enough to pay attention to us.
And even at the 9 minute mark of this, I think most people are still going, "What are they talking about?" Um, and the simple gist is this: um, I believe, obviously, there was a really big news event that happened today pertaining to Kaulig and RAM, and I do think we might have been the first people with it on the internet, which obviously in 2025 and 2026 is probably more substantial than someone saying something on a radio show. Um, but let's just go, let's walk through the timeline here a little bit. We got told by one of our sources that there was a distinct possibility that Tony Stewart might run a Ram truck for select races for Kaulig. We didn't say anything right away. In fact, I remember having a discourse in our staff chat where there are other members that are not named Sean and Ryan. And it's like, yeah, we could see where that'd be possible, but we didn't put too much stock into it. And then Mike Skinner and his wife that same week on the radio said, yeah, we heard Tony Stewart's going to run races and Casey Kane's going to run races. And so between what we heard from our source and Mike Skinner, who's fairly connected with the industry, obviously, we felt like that was enough to put out there that, yeah, it sounds like Tony Stewart's going to run with Kaulig Racing. We didn't hear anything from anyone at Kaulig Racing for it has to be a couple of months now. We've been talking about this. I'm going to say, honestly, about 2.5 months. We didn't hear a damn thing from anyone at Kaulig Racing. We didn't reach out about it either. But we didn't hear a thing. And they were not too pleased as of yesterday with, I guess, us putting certain things out there on the internet. And Ryan, being the more level-headed of the two of us, came up with a very business-like approach reply to them. And let's just say it probably didn't go how we would have rathered it go. And at the same time, it feels like a good time to remind anyone that may or may not be listening to this right now is we are not officially affiliated in any way with Kaulig Racing, Matt Kaulig, Chris Rice, Ty Norris, anybody there, and that they should run their business how they see fit, um, regardless of what we think of maybe what is mismarketing at times, and we'll touch on that briefly. And all I'll say is we're going to run what we do how we see fit, as long as we're not breaking any laws or really harming anyone. Then I don't see the issue in covering the team the way that we have. Although that being said, Ryan, I think one thing that we are at least considering is a name change. I brought it up to you privately. I don't know if we would have been approached had Kaulig not been on our name. And again, I just want to emphasize we weren't trying to ruin anything or hurt anybody or piss anyone off. Like, I don't know about you. I don't have fucking time for that. We were doing the exact same thing that Breakheart and Iceberg and Eric Estep and so many other people do. That's really all I have to say.
Yeah. I mean, listen, somebody was upset that we potentially put out there that Tony Stewart would be driving a Kaulig truck, right? Let's just be honest about that. That's we were approached about this, but we did nothing that that handful of other members of the NASCAR media, people that do various social media, whether it's on X or Instagram or YouTube, did. And again, we have tried to connect directly with the team to work together to build resources to do something collaboratively, and up to this point they have chosen not to do that, and I respect that. That's okay, but that means even though we're fans, what we're doing here with you guys watching and text and applying to us is we do our homework. We do the digging. We have sources, legitimate sources that we go to, and it is our goal to be a valuable place of information for people to come and get legitimate, real information. And you know what? That might step on some toes sometimes. But if we have to do it this way, we have to dig. We are working very hard to get the information we get. And I'm proud of the work that we do. And we are not going to change what we do to appease some form or manner a party. Now, with that being said, we might consider doing a name change to be more generalized NASCAR content, because we don't want to upset people at Kaulig Racing. But it is our responsibility, and I'm far from calling us the journalists because we are fans, but I think it is our responsibility to do the digging and report what we find. That's, I think, the integrity of what we're trying to do here, and we are going to continue to do that our way. And if somebody and we're not going to change that, and I'm confident in that statement that we are going to continue this year and into the future to grow our platform, because we share real, honest news that we dig for. And that's where I stand. I think we have done a great job for us being a small platform to grow our platform, because we go to everybody else and share what we know. So I'm happy with what we do, and I don't plan on changing that anytime soon.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other things that we could say publicly. Fuck, we could release the whole conversation publicly, and it frankly wouldn't look very good on one side. And it's hard to not be a little upset about that, because we are Kaulig racing fans, but we're also NASCAR fans. And we've also decided to create this YouTube channel and have a Premium X account and the biggest Kaulig following there is on Facebook. And so we have investment in the team in terms of our interest and our passion, but we also have a financial investment in what we are doing here in terms of content creation and the platform that we're on. And it just kind of felt like we were asked to forego that without any anything offered in return, and that it doesn't sit well with me. And everyone I've talked to, it doesn't sit well with. And it takes two of us to sign off on a name change, but I can tell you, I'm for me. I know you see the at Kaulig Nation there on the screen under my box, but I don't feel very good with that there right now. Ryan, sorry, I got to say this. I don't know if anyone's listening, and if it does, oh well. But we fucking cover that team better than they cover their own team. That is a fact, and it has been that way for 3 years, whether there's been eyeballs on us or not. That is just a cold, hard fact in terms of staying engaged with their fans. And didn't feel like that was very appreciated at all. But this is what happens when you do this kind of thing, right? Like, you're going to have your feathers ruffled. It's not the first time I've had something like this happen. It probably won't be the last time. But let's move on. We've mentioned the possible name change. I think we would just go with Rammin is racing. We've already been building that up. Which, by the way, we are entering race 3 of our regular season over on our NASCAR 25 Xbox League, and we'll give a point standings update at the end of the show. We have other topics to get to, and Ryan, that very topic that came out, Tony Stewart officially confirmed to drive at Daytona for Kaulig in that 25 truck. So now all the people on social media that said we were fucking nuts and crazy can eat some crow on
There were
that.
plenty of those too, by the way.
Yeah,
Plenty
plenty
of
of people
that called us out.
Looking at you, Doug Ivy. But yeah, no, it's fairly confident this one was going to happen. I won't lie, I've not gotten to I've not had the ability to read almost anything that has officially come out today because of what happened with us behind the scenes with them, and the fact that we both had work days and we both had other obligations to go to today. And I haven't caught up. I know Dwayne in the chat asked if there was a news conference. No, I don't think there was. It was just their typical little tweet and a little video and a press release, and that's it. And for something like this, yeah, you're right. There should have been a news conference. Tony should have been in front of a microphone. Chris Rice should have been in front of a microphone. Same with Matt Collig and Ty Norris and Tim Kaniskis and all those guys. I will say this, though, to back them up a little bit here, is even though the announcement came today, even though they and you know what, they actually did kind of spoil the announcement for us about 5 or 10 minutes before they officially announced it. Because I had messaged you, Ryan, being like, oh, well, I think they basically just confirmed the Tony Stewart bid. And I checked back on my phone 15 minutes later, and oh, boom, there's the press release. But again, I haven't seen much on it. And again, to defend them, I don't think they intended to release this news today. I think somebody with Ram or Collig or both got upset with some stuff that was starting to get out there. I know they didn't like our quote tweet and a GIF that we posted, which seems just a little bit too sensitive for my liking. But yeah, you'll never convince me that, what is it, the 13th today? You'll never convince me that Tuesday, January 13th was the intended announcement date for Tony Stewart. I think they were holding this off for longer. I know previously they mentioned they would let everyone know the week of who would be in the car. I could see them being a little bit earlier than that at times, but yeah, I don't think this announcement was supposed to be out there today. And I think they made a judgment call to just get it out there and be done with it.
Yeah, and I actually agree with you that I doubt today was the intended release date. Now, I will say, even though they said that their expectation is for this 25 truck that they're going to release the driver the week of the Monday or Tuesday of the race week. That's fair. I think they're going to do that going forward. But this announcement, I think, required a little bit more pizzazz. They were going to build this up, right? This is not something they were going to drop on us the Tuesday before the race. They wanted to build people's interest and try to get this into the media and get fans excited about it and try to get eyeballs on this race. So I'm not surprised that it's out a month early. Now, was it intended for today? I kind of agree that maybe it wasn't supposed to be today, but my guess is it was going to be within the next 7. They already had the video, right? They had already recorded Tony in the shop, and he did his little "I'm back," right, response, which was cool. I actually enjoyed that. But again, this was the big announcement, and I think this is where some of maybe the frustration came from, is that they've been building up a lot of exciting things. The announcement that they were going to Dodge and Ram and all of the various drivers, and they just did the announcement for the show last week. But through all of that, I think the biggest announcement of them all is that they were pulling a 3-time NASCAR Cup Series champion out of retirement to drive one of their trucks. That is a massive, monumental moment. And to your point, for such a big moment, it probably deserved more than a minute-long teaser video and a press release. But because this news was as big as it is, and frankly, we were not the ones to full out report this, by the way. We hinted at it. We talked about it as it could happen. We heard the rumblings, there were possibilities, but we weren't the ones that said, hey, Tony Stewart's coming to drive Kaulig Racing. That was starting to kind of come out from other bigger names, and we were just following suit with that. And I agree that they were trying to get ahead of it. And that's why they released it today. But it did, I think, do its intended purpose. We're talking about it tonight. We saw the Jordan Bianchi talked about it. Bob Pockrass talked about it. It's going to make the news. It's going to be in the news cycle for at least a few days. And of course, leading into race week, now that we know Tony's in that seat, they can start doing promos and various things to try to build this up. So I think that's all of the direction they're trying to take to make this happen. But nonetheless, it is a huge deal that they were able to get Tony Stewart to agree to this, right? Like it's been since 2016 since he's driven any form of NASCAR vehicle, and we know how publicly, how public his divorce was from Stewart Haas Racing just 2 years ago, where he sold his shares and moved to NHRA. So the fact that they were able to do this is a huge accomplishment for the team, and I hope will bring the desired result of eyeballs and attention, and hopefully come race day some results, because that would be a really cool storyline for Tony Stewart to run competitively or win in a Dodge Ram on debut.
Let's shift our focus to the on-track aspect of this. So it's official. Obviously, only one race mentioned for now. Wouldn't be stunned to see him in that truck come San Diego if there's nothing NHRA related going on that week. Are you at all surprised it's Daytona, given I was going to say the dangers, but the guy drives a top fuel dragster, so it's kind of hard to go on about dangers when you're driving a top fuel dragster. But obviously, if he gets hurt in an accident, it would affect what he's got going on. But just thoughts on it being Daytona.
No, I think that's exactly where I thought he was going to be. I mean, I know we kind of had this conversation when we first started talking about this back in November. Daytona was the track I expected. It's the first race of the season. It's the biggest race of the season. He's an elite super speedway racer. He's won dozens of super speedway races over the course of his career. Yes, it's the most dangerous for him, but it's also the one where he can legitimately compete at cold turkey, in my opinion. So the fact that it's Daytona is not a surprise. I am not shocked. I fully expected this to be the race he ran for multiple reasons. And one being, it is the biggest race of the year. It's one that's going to draw the most media attention. And again, what we've seen from Tim Kuniskis and even Chris Rice at this point, that for them to want to get back into the sport and spend the millions, tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to get back into NASCAR, they were trying to make sure they are drawing the most attention and eyeballs they can. So Daytona was the place to do it. That's where they're going to do it. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the ratings for that race is going to be very, very high.
They won't be in Canada where it's almost impossible to see a truck race, but I'm going to have to find ways to be able to watch these things. It's approaching quicker than I thought. And last year we had no truck coverage at all. So it might be a chore watching some of these. We'll see. From what I understand, the trucks broadcasts are not very good anyway, but that's a story for another day.
They
I'm
are
excited,
unfortunately bad. Yeah.
I'm excited. I think if he has fun and it's a good experience, he could end up doing it again. He's a business guy, obviously. He's not going to race just anywhere, but I think if he has a good result and a good time and doesn't feel like it's a chore to do it, that I could see him racing San Diego if NHRA has nothing that weekend. So, or another road course, right? So,
well, the thing that I hope doesn't scare him away is it's a truck race at a super speedway, which is the most awful experience. Wreckfest. I like it as an observer, as a fan, because at the end of it, there's only about 3 finishers. But from his perspective, I could see him not enjoying that experience if it turns into a complete caution fest, which it almost always does.
Yeah, I'm honestly happy for Kaulig. I'm happy for Ram. I think I'm most happy though, dude, for Tony Stewart fans. I wasn't one of them. I was not a big Tony Stewart fan by any means. Not that I didn't have respect for the guy. You'd be nuts to not have respect for the guy. But they get to see their guy back. I know it's just a truck race for now, but believe me when I say there's another side of this that might be it's not just a truck race. You know, passion can reignite. There's so many examples of that in sports and entertainment. And last time I checked, Dodge is going to need more than one Cup Series team when they finally come back too. So just saying, people, wouldn't rule anything out at this point in time. You have any final Tony thoughts?
No, I think I'm excited to see him. I'm glad he's coming back, to your point, to his fans, to the NASCAR fans in general, honestly, because, that stretch between 2016 and 2019, when basically the old guard of elite drivers, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tony Stewart, Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, may he rest in peace, that whole core crop of drivers kind of all retired at the same time. And a lot of fans were left without drivers to follow. We know this first AJ was out of the Cup Series or out of NASCAR for a year, right? Like it's much sure I'm a huge racing and I watch because I love the sport, but not having a face is not as fun. And to the point of Tony Stewart fans getting that one last ride opportunity, I'm super excited for that. And I just hope it brings some of the older fans back that just haven't quite adapted or found a new driver to root for, because that does make a difference in terms of being excited to watch these races.
All right, let's shift gears here. WeatherTech is out. They're not returning to SVG and Trackhouse, and I can tell you, as of the end of last year, that was not what Trackhouse thought was happening. They thought that they had WeatherTech support for both Zilish and SVG this year, so that's a fairly significant loss for that team. I mean, SVG won a bunch of races, and Connor Zilish is the young phenom of the sport. I think they're going to find some one-off races for this year and be just okay. But either way, I'm guessing they probably thought they had at least 10 races for SVG and half a dozen for Zillish, and now all of a sudden you have to replace 16 to 20 races probably. And I was really impressed with how much they um, came to the forefront of the sport and put their name on everything. Um, but it's a big difference doing that in the Cup Series than a full season of Xfinity, right? Like it's apples to oranges, right? It's like dining at the keg or dining at McDonald's. Those are two different things, and one is going to fill you up, but it's going to cost a lot of fucking money.
You
And
know,
I just, yeah,
I have a really good example for you, and I'm going to see if you can, if you remember this or not, because they did. I'm they they kind of came out of nowhere. They were sponsoring IMSA. They've always sponsored like one or two IMSA cars, the WeatherTech cars. So they've been in NASCAR or in racing, but this was last year was their first real dip into the NASCAR realm, and they did a lot with SVG, and then they oversaturated themselves last year doing so many races with SVG and Connor. Um, the example that I can think of most of where they basically do one season and out is back in I think it was 2011. Bobby Labonte had Ask Jeeves on his car. They came out of nowhere. They hadn't sponsored anything at any point. And then for that entire season, they sponsored his cup car, like 34 of the 36 races. And then the very next year, completely gone again. And that's just kind of what I'm getting out of WeatherTech is that they came in, they put their best foot forward. They invested God knows how many millions of dollars over the last 2 years to sponsor these guys and as many races as they did. And then quickly realized that they didn't probably have the budget to continue on to do that. I'm curious what if they had any return on investment. My assumption is they probably did see an increase in business. They were everywhere, but I do think there's a point of oversaturation and diminishing returns. It gets to a point where you just get so accustomed to seeing it that it becomes kind of moot, and that's kind of where I think they were. To the other end of this, though, they did have a change in leadership at their corporate level. I believe they got a new CEO, and that also makes a big difference because how do you want to spend your budget money? And they obviously invested most, if not all, of their budget money into sponsoring NASCAR, and the new CEO decided that's not the direction they wanted to go in this year, and they completely pulled their funding altogether, which is surprising. I'm surprised that happened, but it is kind of the nature of the beast as well. To the Trackhouse side, though, we were having a discussion not all that long ago about them being over sponsored, that they had too much sponsorship and they were going to have to run the Project 91 car um, a lot this year to cover all of their extra sell. So obviously losing WeatherTech is going to eliminate that problem. They also lost freeway insurance when they let Daniel Suarez go. But I'm not too concerned about them finding sponsorship. They already have a significant amount of it between, Budweiser or Bud Light and Red Bull and all of their other various forms of sponsorship that they probably won't be unsponsored. I'm still expecting their cars to be fully sponsored next year. So while it definitely is a loss, because I'm sure they were getting a 8-figure number from WeatherTech, they should be okay in recouping that elsewhere.
yeah, I'm not sure they'll have the same financial kickback as they did with WeatherTech, but they'll get those slots filled. I don't expect to see Trackhouse cars out there with just a Trackhouse logo, unless they determine there's a bottom line for what they're willing to accept, and they'd rather just put their own logo out there. It's possible. Joe Gibbs has done it in the past. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Also, that Ram show that we've been talking about forever finally starts January 25th. When we got that message, I thought for sure it was going to be about not spoiling who won the show. And it's funny because if you look on social media, and you don't have to look hard, since they made the announcement about the show, it's very clear many people know who won the show. Especially when you happen to coincide that announcement with a certain other entry list literally a day or two later, and people are able to put two and two together. And like it was just poorly handled, man. I don't know any other way to put it than that. You know, I'm might be a Kaulig fan, but as I think we've made clear this year, I'm not gonna fucking bend down and kiss their ass for the sake of kissing their ass. I think the handling of how they've announced the Ram show, when they announced the Ram show, and now they're upset that a bunch of people know who won the show. Like someone over there who has some level of experience in the entertainment industry has to know that this is how these things work. Reality TV, almost anyone, if you really want to know who won, can find out who won many weeks before it happened. Wrestling, a lot of the times you know who's going to win before who wins. Yes, that's predetermined, but it's because spoilers get out there. Fuck, I know a bunch of things that are going to happen in a Star Wars movie that doesn't release until May 2027. 27 people. Leaks happen. So if you don't handle things right and place things in the correct spot, you get this, you know? Dude, I can't even look up the Ram show on X anymore without seeing who won. So, and like, I don't know anything about the fella, and we're not going to spoil it. We said it all along, we're not going to spoil it, but like, it's hard to not draw back to the message they sent us and go, like, really? Don't you have bigger issues to handle? Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, circling back to that, we know why that became an issue, right? And it wasn't necessarily from their own eyeballs. So, but yeah, it's a little ridiculous, right? Like we knew we've known who's won for about weeks at this point. We knew pretty quickly after the event ended. Um, but anybody with half a brain that knows that follows NASCAR, right? Knows that if you want to drive at the top 3 levels, you have to get a certification. You have to get approval from NASCAR to race. And how does one do that? You say, well, it's pretty easy to know. You got to go race the ARCA race if you don't have prior experience. So go look at the ARCA entry list. You'll figure it out pretty quickly, right? And it's nothing you, me, or anybody else that follows NASCAR can do about that. That's the rule. That's NASCAR's rule. And if you care enough to look, you'll figure it out, right? So if they wanted to do this without having a lot of it get leaked out or understand what, they needed to film it, which they did. They filmed it back in mid-November, and then turn it or have it on people's televisions by mid-December. The fact that they're doing this to coincide with the season makes sense. I actually think the timing of that, they're going to start it. What's the first day you said? The 25th, right? Roughly 23rd ish of January, and then it's going to 25th. Run concurrently. Yeah, so 25th, and it's going to run concurrently for 8 or 9 or 10 episodes. And it's basically going to coincide with the first race, which happens to fall, I think, on the 13th of February. So, right. So that's how they wanted to do it. It makes sense. I do the show. We're going to announce our driver, and that driver is going to align with the truck race. That's cool. But the way that people that care are going to know who's in that seat.
Yeah, and I mean, that spoiler was already out there, probably from people from the entertainment industry, frankly, prior to any entry list thing. But once the entry list thing came out, it's blown up. So, like, I'm sure they're frustrated about that too, but it's like, you really didn't handle it well at all. Like, so I don't know what they expect, but, you know, that's just me. Let's move on. The chase, it's back. Can't say I'm thrilled, dude, but I'll take it over a full season point standing.
Yeah, I'm happy about it. It's kind of the happy medium that I was most excited for. I am surprised that they got rid of the win and in. I was still kind of expecting that to be in a way of entry into the playoff. But doing the 10 race chase is a good sample size of a season to incorporate who is going to be the best over 10 races. And is the one difference between this chase and the original chase is that the original chase, the points, I believe, reset completely. Everybody was either on equal footing or within a handful of points of each other. This one, if you win the regular season points, you're going to have 100 points. If you're 16th in points, you're going to have 0 points. So that's a huge gap, right? 100 and 0. I mean, for the drivers that are in like basically that 12th to 16th point position going into the playoffs, that's a big hole to try to climb out of. That's probably unrealistic. So I still think it gives that still gives the top cars the advantage, rewards the regular season, but at the end of the day, it removes the one race champion gimmick, which was the critical thing they had. It was an awful thing. So if they had done a 5 race elimination, I wouldn't have been mad about it, because I also think 5 race sample with maybe 8 cars or 6 cars would have been fine. A 10 race it out, all your points count, winner at the end of that takes the championship. I am very satisfied with that.
Seems like most people on social media are still pissed it's not full point season, but like that was never going to happen. We said it on the show a bunch. Other people said it. People much smarter than us with bigger followings than us. Even Mark Martin said, probably some sponsor related things in there why they can't just go back to that either. 16th starting 100 points back from first. I don't like it at all. If you're going to do a playoff, which is exactly what this is, it's playoffs. You should do a playoff. And I also think taking away the elimination races is going to take away a lot of viewer interest come playoff time, where those elimination races usually have a spike in viewership because people want to see who's going to keep going and who's not going to go. I understand not doing one race. I actually agree with that. I know they were considering the 3-3-4 for a bit. I would have much rather that. Before we had 3 elimination races, now we have none. I think the playoffs lost quite a bit of gravitas for me. It'll still be fun. You get a reset. I'm sure there'll be a couple of guys, unless someone blows everyone's doors off, that have a shot at the championship come the last race. 2 or 3 guys maybe. But I don't know. Not for me personally. Again, I didn't want the full points back, so I'm happy we didn't go there. But losing eliminations in general, I thought was just kind of shitty. So it is what it is, though. Could have been worse for me. So
yeah, well,
you never please everybody, which they're learning.
Well, Jeff Gluck did his, Jeff Gluck did his poll. Like, he does was this a good race poll? He did his poll for, do you like this championship format? And 73% of the fans said yes, they like this format. So that I think they will never please everybody. There is a loud subset of folks that really wanted the 36 race season. I knew that was never really on the table. I mean, to your point, at least having a 16 driver field, if you want to call it the playoffs, whatever, chase, pick your poison, at least that they can sell that to a sponsor that says, hey, we made the 16 race chase this year. Like, we reached that milestone of at least being eligible for the playoffs. I think that was a big selling point. 16 cars versus, I think the original chase was 10. Then they kind of moved it to 12 with 2 wild cards. 16 cars also. The reason there's that many is because of sponsors. They want to get more teams involved to say they're playoff drivers. So they definitely, original platform, molded it to a little bit more of the modern times. I'm curious to see how the points gap plays out, the 100 to 0. It wouldn't surprise me if they realize that's a bad idea and modify that going forward. But also at the same time, it is rewarding the team that's had the most successful season. So that's the part I'm curious to see how maybe it's going to self-eliminate a lot of drivers pretty quickly, honestly, and then we're only going to be focused on the 6-8 that are real having a shot after about there's 3 races anyway. So they're eliminated without officially being eliminated. I think it's not going to hurt the ratings that much because the ratings were kind of shit to begin with, and the people that want a more authentic experience will hopefully get that, maybe boost the audience over the grand scope of the 10 races versus maybe a small tick in those elimination races.
Maybe time will tell. Not what I wanted, but it's not all about me. Lastly on the show, some fun stuff here. We launched a NASCAR 25 league. We did I guess it ended up being a 4-week preseason, and now we're entering week 3 of the regular season. And here is a look at the standings through 2 races as we get to go to race 3, which is Homestead. Ryan is sitting there in 18th place, 31 points. Looks like he's 10 out of a playoff spot. Is that right? It's really hard to see this on my phone. Looks like he's 10 out of a playoff spot. I'm sitting in 7th with 63. And we're going to Homestead, where I think we're both already pretty tired of that place. So we by air, I mean we stream some of the races here on the YouTube channel and the X account. So be on the lookout for that. And it's been fun. You had some tension between some of the racers, but in general, it's been a good time. I've had fun racing again.
Sorry about that. Computer's being laggy with the mute button. What I've learned, and I kind of knew going in, was I kind of suck. I'm not very good. I have a lot of speed to find in terms of the game. Even tonight, we're doing a brief practice with you. You were good, probably half second faster than me. So definitely got to find some speed, but it is a good time. I'm enjoying it. It's building a nice camaraderie with our group Discord channel, and everybody mostly respectful. It's a little barbs here and there, but you know what? That's fun. I think that creates some good rivalries and gets more and more experience. We're going to have really good competitive races, and I think that's all we wanted out of this, was to build a community and have good races. And while it's certainly had its moments, I've really enjoyed what we've gotten through so far. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one this weekend, and hopefully I can find a little speed because I am way off the pace.
I think you'll be there by race time. Anyways, if you haven't yet, click the thumbs up button. It helps us out a ton. We will be around far more frequently now as we're getting ready to roll into the preseason. And I appreciate you listening, all you listening to our TED Talk for the first 10 minutes of this thing. And a lot more to come. But for Ryan, I'm Sean. We will see you next time on Rammin is Racing.